Hello, this is Stefan again from schristoph.online. Today we'll talk about my latest blog post, Compression is Intelligence. Information theory says prediction and compression are the same thing measured two ways. That gives the cleanest mental model I know for what a large language model does. It is a compressor of its training text. And the practical payoff is that context becomes the real lever. Grant Sanderson of 3, Blue Von Braun opens with a small puzzle. A robot sends 4 instructions, but they aren't equally likely. Half up, a quarter down, and so on. The clever encoding uses a short code for the frequent instruction and longer codes for rare ones, so the average cost drops below 2 bits. Push that to its limit and you rediscover what Claude Shannon named entropy, the floor set entirely by how predictable the source is. Here is the whole idea on one diagram. Patterns in the data lead to a model that learns them, which lets you write a shorter description, better compression, and that is the same skill as better prediction. Learning the regularities in data is exactly what lets you describe it in fewer bits. Here is the turn that makes it click. Prediction and compression are mathematically equivalent. Two sides of one coin. The pre-training objective next token prediction measured with cross entropy loss is borrowed straight from Shannon. So a language model is really being trained to be the most efficient compressor of its training text. I'll keep the video as caution though. This is the best intuition for what the model does, not a claim that a compressor is a mind. You might ask, isn't compression is intelligence just a catchy slogan with no real content? Partly, and the post says so. Intelligence is too squishy to make the slogan rigorous. The defensible version is narrower. The mathematics of compression is strangely relevant to how these systems work. The slogan is the hook. The prediction equals compression equivalence is the substance. The slogan is neither mine nor new. Marcus Hutter has run a compression prize since 2006. Take a fixed snapshot of Wikipedia and compress it as small as you can, on the premise that better compression of human knowledge is a proxy for understanding it. And in 2024, a paper titled Compression Represents Intelligence linearly tested real language models and found that how well a model compresses tracks its capability almost linearly. Let me switch to the origin of the thesis. This is Marcus Hutter's prize for compressing human knowledge, running since 2006. The premise is exactly the one in this post. Make Wikipedia smaller without losing anything and you have, in effect, modeled the world better. The framing is Hutter's, not mine. And here is the empirical paper on arc-sieve compression, represents intelligence linearly by Yuzhen Wang and colleagues. It measured the relationship across many models and found a nearly linear fit between compression ability and benchmark capability. Note the careful word, it tracks capability, it doesn't prove causation, but it gives the slogan empirical legs in the domain we care about. This is where the whiteboard meets what you deploy. Once a model is trained, its compressor is fixed and you rent that frozen compressor by the token. The part you control at runtime is the context. Read through the compression lens, good context engineering is feeding the compressor better priors. So it predicts your situation instead of the average of the internet. Better context is more precise context, not more of it. So does more context make the model smarter? No, more precise context does. Irrelevant context is noise the compressor still has to account for, and it competes with the signal you wanted. It also explains an economic pattern. The cheapest model with the right context usually beats the most expensive model guessing without it, because you've done the compressor's hardest work for it. Where does this stop, Andy Jassy? Has a line I keep coming back to. There is no compression algorithm for experience. Compression captures the regularities in what has already been written down. It is very good at the seen and the sayable, and says much less about the part of intelligence that comes from acting in the world, being wrong, and updating. That is the honest boundary. It is not a theory of mind. If context is the lever, then resending the same large context on every call is paying to compress the same priors over and over. Amazon Bedrock prompt caching is a practical fix. You mark a stable prefix of the context and repeated calls reuse the cached prefix instead of reprocessing it, which cuts latency and cost. It's the operational version of the idea, curate the priors once, then feed them cheaply on every turn. Here are the Amazon Bedrock prompt caching docs. You mark the stable portion of your input, and Bedrock reuses that cached prefix on repeated calls. so you only pay full price for the part that actually changes. The model stays a fixed compressor, you just stop paying to hand it the same context twice. Thanks for listening, I hope this was helpful. If so, you can reach out on LinkedIn directly or head to my blog at schristoph.online. Let's keep in touch. Take care.